Bobby Bell in his email last night said, really scroll through these 7 observations that I have and tell me which ones you have takes on. I'm like, well, I have takes on all of them except for one of them.
Yeah, you didn't have a take about Tyler Smith, really.
Yeah, I don't. I follow the ball.
You're just kind of like, screw the trenches.
It's Christmas Day. They're out of it. I ain't watching the offensive line the way Brian Broaddus is.
That's the way we're changing things up, though. That's a new thing that you can get into. That's something to focus on, you know?
I focus on the quarterback.
All right.
I focus on the quarter. But there were a couple of things in here that I really, really liked.
Mm-hmm.
And you said that maybe teams are kind of figuring out number 4.
Yeah, so we remember this. It occurred, what was it? It was 2021, I believe it was, where Dak had the strained calf. And when he came back from the strained calf, they played their first game against Denver. And they had a lot of really big problems that day moving the ball. And as the season wore on, there was a whole discussion about, man, there are these too high split safety looks that are kind of putting a cap on everything, and they're taking away what Dak can do down the field. And it was a league-wide thing. You remember, because it was kind of funny. It was like, this is a new invention? Too high safeties running different looks? Like, that's new somehow? And yet the whole league was really struggling to push the ball down the field. And Dak was part of that. And Dak specifically was part of that in regards to cover 2 looks. In fact, if you looked over, I think heading into this season, against cover 2 looks the last 4 years, he was 3 touchdowns, 9 interceptions, something like that. And so it was something that he had struggled with. This year, he's been much more solid with it. Cover 2, cover 3 looks aren't giving him the same sort of issues that he was having in previous years. And in previous years, he's always been pretty good going up against cover 4, which when you look at cover 4, so we've talked about it before. Cover 2, as we mentioned earlier this week when we were breaking down the Trayvon Diggs play, cover 2 is going to be, you've got 2 deep zones where the safeties kind of split half the field, and then you've got 5 underneath zones. Mm-hmm. In cover 4, you're running 4 deep zones,
right?
And then you've got 3 underneath zones. And those are going to be like the cornerbacks kind of playing the flats there, and then you've got a linebacker, or you got the linebackers playing the flats there, and then you've got the middle linebacker kind of sitting in the middle of the field, and you're just dropping the corners and the safeties into the deeper part of the field. So cover 6 is a modified look of that. It's something Vic Fangio runs a lot of, but it's cover 4 look on one side of the field, cover 2 on the other. And with Vic Fangio, it can switch to man coverage depending on different things. There's a lot of different nuances to it. But Dak had played pretty well against cover 4 and cover 6 throughout his career. He didn't see a lot of it, but when he would see it, he would generally handle it just fine. That has not been the case this year, and you're starting to see more and more teams that are saying, hey, let's start trying to throw this at him. Let's see if he can handle this, because there's a little bit of a novelty aspect to it before when Dak would see it. He's definitely seeing it at a higher rate right now than he has generally over his career. So if we're just looking over the different games this season, so if I were to take the first week of the season and look at, all right, when did this kind of flip for him? When did teams start showing him different looks? So the first several weeks of the season, you had 14 dropbacks against the Eagles where he saw these looks, 5 against the Giants, 8 against the Bears. You had 6 against the Jets. Just very simple. In fact, earlier in the year when the Commanders played him, they had 8. 8 times that Dak dropped back, he was playing cover 4 or cover 6. Then the Broncos game happened, and Dak had a lot of trouble that game with what Vance Joseph was doing. Mm-hmm. So he went 7 of 12. He had 62 yards, no touchdowns, 1 interception. And he was sacked 2 times while they were in those looks. The next week, they get the Arizona Cardinals. The Cardinals play a lot more cover 4 than anybody else in the NFL does. On 23 of his dropbacks, Dak got cover 4 or cover 6. 11 for 18, 76 yards, no touchdowns, 1 interception. So this was back-to-back weeks. This was right in the thick of everybody saying the Dallas offense is unstoppable. You're not going to be able to stop them. You're just going to have to score 40 points, which you can do against them, but that's what you're going to have to do.
Right.
And it kind of seemed to click for some teams at that point. Now, I know Matt Eberflus is just committed to what he does, but other defensive coordinators...
you mean he's stubborn. Okay.
But other defensive coordinators across the NFL will watch things on tape and go,
whoa,
we should be doing some of this.
do that?
We should do it specifically for this game here.
Are you allowed to?
You are allowed to do that.
So, yeah, because they've scored... Guess how many points they've scored the second half of the last 3 games combined?
It was... What did they score yesterday? 9? And then I think it was 0. So was it 12?
15.
Yeah. It's bad. No touchdowns.
Against Minnesota, Chargers, and Washington, they've scored 15 points on 5 field goals in the second half of the last 3 games.
It's brutal. It's been really
look,
bad.
I mean, they put up 26 against Minnesota and 30 yesterday and 17 the week before. Like, you should be putting up way more points.
Yeah. And early on in these games, they've been scoring. And so you saw it again yesterday where they were moving the ball early, and in the second half, Dan Quinn and the Commanders' defense started way overloading cover 4. They played like 4 snaps of it in the first half.
So do you think this is a Dak thing or a predictability of the offense thing?
No, I think that what they're doing is that your weapons are different now, right? So you've got Pickens, you've got Lamb. Turpin is somebody they like to run vertical. It's just a more vertical offense than what they had with McCarthy because McCarthy sucked.
Wow.
Right? So
boy, stop it.
Basically what they're doing is
he was good.
They're pushing the ball down the field more. They're taking more shots. It's not, the in-between stuff. They're throwing to the flat a lot. They're doing some different things, but they're setting up vertical throws pretty frequently. And they're able to hit those consistently because of the kind of receiver Pickens has been or the kind of receiver that CeeDee Lamb is. And so teams are starting to say, all right, we'll let you nickel and dime us, but we're going to keep everything in front of us. You're not going to take shots. That's why in a lot of these instances, you'll see Dak have 70% completions against cover 4 in a game, but he'll have 11 completions and it's for like 50 yards because everything's underneath. They're tackling. And when he does try to take shots deeper, it gets intercepted. Mm-hmm. So since that time, let's just bring up these are the number of dropbacks that he's had against cover 4 and cover 6 since starting with the Eagles game. Eagles did it 16 times. Chiefs did it 21. Lions did it 15. Vikings did it 7 because they're generally a cover 0 team, but that's more than they typically run it.
Right.
Chargers did it 13 times, which is more than they typically run it. And yesterday, the Commanders, who ran it 8 times against Dak in the first meeting, they did it 24 times to him yesterday. And in those 24 times, he was 6 for 17 for 62 yards. That's 35% completions, 3.6 yards per attempt. And he was sacked 6 times and pressured 12. That's every single sack came on those 24 dropbacks, which I think he had 44 dropbacks yesterday.
Yeah.
Which means that on the 20 other dropbacks that he had, he didn't get sacked once.
It's really insane that Washington ran 41 plays and was in this game the entire time.
Yeah.
Not the entire time, but the second half.
Yeah.
And it's because the offense didn't have that put-away punch. And that was like, if I go back to my star downs, one of my star downs was not being able to put Washington away. Mm-hmm. And they had chances. You're playing Josh Johnson, and here they are running half as many plays as you did, and with 12 minutes to go, they're in plus territory with a chance to tie the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it completely... It's something where they were able to hang around this game way too easily, especially for how dominant you had been earlier in the first half. This game, there was talk on social media after the Turpin touchdown where it's like, how long do you keep Dak in here? Like, how long? Like, you understand you want to be competitive, but it's starting to not be competitive even.
Right.
Well, you keep them in there, and they're able to score, and Washington changes some things up. These are the percentage of times that Kansas City, I'll use Kansas City as a good example of a team that just said, oh, this is what we're running against Dak. This is the percentage of times in the weeks leading up to the Dallas game that they ran cover 4 and cover 6 in their games. Against the Raiders in week 7, 10% of the time. 17% in week 8. 20% in week 9. They ran it 34% in week 11 against the Broncos. 21% against the Colts. How much did they run it against the Cowboys?
38.
54% of the time. No other game this season comes close for the Chiefs running cover 4 and cover 6 that much. So that's the Chiefs. That's Spagnuolo watching tape leading up to the game going, oh, he's having trouble with this.
Yeah, this...
And to be fair, I think it's just, it takes longer for some things to develop.
Right.
The offensive line has not been as good. So this is also as much about the offensive line as it's also as much about the offensive line as it is about Dak. But I would say that this is how teams are trying to respond to the weapons that you have now. And with the offensive line being as difficult as it is to block things up for a long enough time for things to develop down the field, that's becoming an issue. And so I think what you're starting to see here is teams that are saying, all right, Dak is not able to just stand back there because of the offensive line and pick us apart all day in these looks. So if we just kind of take things away deep, take away what he wants to do down there, he can dink and dunk he wants all day. We'll wrap up and tackle. And when he tries to push the ball down the field, we're gonna be able to pick it off.
The more you talk about this, the more angered I get about Eberflus. And we have gone so long. It doesn't seem like there's ever really this unique coaching advantage. And I poo-poo on coaching a lot. But forget advantage. How about just, like, standard? Just give me the standard NFL coach at defensive coordinator. Would Eberflus ever change up? Says, hey, you know what? This quarterback doesn't do well against this. Let's run this a lot more than we normally do. It just doesn't seem. And now maybe we're too close to it. It just seems like the Cowboys have been we do what we do. Be damned everybody else.
Yeah. I mean, particularly with Eberflus. Now,
that was a Garrett thing too.
This is if you were to look back at how Dak has played against these coverages throughout his career, because like I said, this has not always been an area that he struggled in. So you take 2021, Dak was 120 rating against cover 4 and 6, 6 touchdowns, no interceptions. 2022, 10 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. 2023, 8 touchdowns, 3 interceptions for the year.
Okay.
So last year, he started, there was a little bit of a push where he started seeing it a little bit more when they couldn't protect as well. He had 3 touchdowns and 1 pick. Not terrible, but he averaged 6 yards per attempt. It was the first year of his career where his EPA per dropback against the coverages was negative, and his passer rating was 87. This year, he's 6 touchdowns to 4 interceptions against the looks. Since week 7, it's 2 touchdowns to 4 interceptions. His yards per attempt this year is 6.8. His EPA per dropback is negative 0.04. It's just, it is a look that has started to frustrate him. And in large part, it's because of how your pass protection has struggled. Now, if you're trying to push things vertically and those take longer to develop and you're trying to get things down the field and they're trying to take away the top and they're trying to take away those deeper routes and you're not able to block things up, it's a combination that's bad. Now, Dak's got to adjust to it. There were a couple different times yesterday I felt like Dak held onto the ball a lot longer than he typically does.
I did too.
Where it was like, get rid of it or run or do something. Try to just don't take the sack, and yet he took 6 of them. That was, if you looked at all of the other games that he faced pressure yesterday. Yeah. In fact, I'm going to try and pull this up real quick because I believe the number of pressures that he faced was, I don't know that he faced many when he was not in those looks, those cover 6 and cover 4 looks. In fact, yeah, they didn't generate a single pressure in any other coverage look yesterday.
Oh, nice. I did notice he was holding on the ball a little bit longer, but now that you mentioned that they're playing a lot of cover 4, cover 6, that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, if you're able to, if your offensive line isn't able to block, if you can block it, you can find something to get open. But stuff takes longer to develop.
You brought this up as well about how we watched this game.
Yeah. So this was, I was curious because as I watched the game, I found myself, this was the most different I had watched a game all season. Not even last year or last week against the Chargers was it like this. But I found myself watching it the way I watch a preseason game. I didn't feel like it was a preseason game. Like, I definitely felt like, all right, this is just two teams out of it, but it still felt like regular season football to me. But I found myself watching it with the end result not in my mind at all. Like, win or loss, it's like, okay, whatever. If they win or lose, whatever. But I want to see what they're doing with these things. And I don't. That's the first game this season where I felt that way. Where it's like, well, let me see what's happening with the offensive line over here. Let me see how they're responding to this. Let me see what they're trying out over here. Let me see if this is an issue or that's an issue. And I was curious about it because I was looking on social media and I saw a bunch of varied reactions. So I'm curious, and you can weigh in on the Franklin Injury Attorneys fan text, 877-881-1053, 877-881-1053. Did you find yourself invested in this game? Like, when you were at home, did you find yourself going with the ebbs and flows like you normally would if Dallas wasn't eliminated? Or were your ebbs and flows related to wanting them to lose and you're kind of going up and down with them potentially losing the game? Or did you start out one way and then as the game went along, you found yourself cheering on the other side and go, no, I actually want it to be a win or actually want it to be a loss? So I'm curious just how you guys consume the game. And for you, Chop, you obviously wanted to tank the draft pick. Did any of the competitiveness kick in for you at all in this game?
Absolutely not.
Not 1 second of it?
No.
So the ebbs and flows for the game for you were first half was miserable, and you were like, oh, we're making a run here in the second half. That's how you felt about it.
No, I just got detached. I don't. If there's no, I am a stakes guy. There's no stakes in the game. I'm very uninterested in the game. That's why, like, regular season basketball or baseball game, I don't really get too hype about. Football games are different because the games matter. The moment they don't matter, it's like, all right, well, you lost. All right, you won. Now, the problem is when you lose or win, it affects your draft pick this late.
Yeah.
And the ebbs and flows of the draft pick are far higher than the ebbs and flows of the actual game. And you know what disappointed me the most is that we were out there trying to win and we still could barely do it.
I mean, I never felt like that game was really in jeopardy.
I didn't feel like it was in jeopardy, but I mean, like I said, they were in plus territory. We're told to play.
Sure.
Chance to tie.
Yeah.
And you got your starters in. They got their third string quarterback in. Mm-hmm. That should not happen.